Now you can run your apps either in the dev mode or in the production mode, and to set environment specific options, what we can do is we can create a variable here called env and set it to process.env. Env stands for environment variables, and we're looking for an environment variable on this machine called node_env. And if for some reason this variable does not exist, what we want to do is we want to default to a value of development. Okay, so once I have said this, let's see what it actually outputs to. So we'll do a console.log and we'll set it to mode, and it should display the value of the variable called env. So let's just run this and see what happens. So node app.js, it says that currently the mode is development. Now how do we switch this mode? How do we actually make our app work in the production mode? The production mode would be required when you deploy the app on the cloud. So you will need to set it to production mode, and the best part being that we can have environment specific variables and settings so that you can comfortably work in the dev mode, and when you're ready for deployment, all you have to do is switch the mode and it's perfectly fine. It's using the values which are designed for production. So to create environment specific options, what we'll simply do is we'll use an if and else. So we'll set this to if env is equal to development, then I should have essentially dev specific settings, else these will be production specific settings, right? So let's switch the mode and see what happens. So how do you switch the mode? You will have to go on a Windows machine. I'm on a Windows machine, so what I'm going to do is on the terminal I'm going to type set, and we'll create an environment variable called node_env, and we'll simply set it to production. So once I set it to production, and now when I run the app, you'll see that it says that the mode is production, right? So that's essentially how you can create mode specific options. Now once you have a method by which you can switch your settings, you'll see that I've removed the session middleware. So I'm going to put it here because what I want to do is to show you that when you switch to production mode, you need to make a few changes to how you handle your sessions, or rather how you store your sessions. So let me just create this statement once again. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to put it here. So at this point in time, there's no difference between how your app handles the sessions in development versus in production. So we are still in the production mode. Now I'm going to restart the app and see what it says. So it says connect.session memory store is not designed for a production environment as it will leak memory and will not scale past a single process. So what it is trying to tell you is that the way we are storing our sessions using a combination of sessions and the cookies is not designed for production. It's good enough for development when you're creating your app on your own local machine. It's perfectly fine, it works well. But then as you scale up the app, what you need to do is you need to use a database like MongoDB or another popular option being Redis for storing the session variables. So this is a good time to actually create a mechanism which stores our session. When in the production mode, it should store our session values in the Mongo lab account that we created previously. So before I do anything else, there's just one other thing that I need to do is I need to create mode specific settings. I need to create configuration files which lets me load configuration specific options easily. So what I'll do is I'll create a variable called config, and I'm going to set it to require config/config.js. So let's create this config.js, and let's create a new folder called config. Now I'm creating folders for all the specific files just because it makes it very easy to then manage these individual files. It's up to you how you do your file management, but this is something specific which I use. Now we will create two files. This is the config.js file. This file will be responsible for providing the settings as per the mode that the app is running in. But the actual settings will be stored in two JSON files. So I'm going to create one JSON file called development.json, and we'll create another one called production.json, and make sure that these files are inside the config folder. So they have to be inside the same folder as the config.js. So I'll go into the development.json, and what we're going to do here is we'll create a JSON object, and my first key would be db URL, and I'm going to set it to the MongoLab URL that we had created last time. So let's just go and get it. So go to mongolab.com, and I'm just going to log in. And you remember that we had this database created last time called ChatCat. So we'll just go here and we'll pick up this particular URL, and I'm going to copy it here. And all we need to do is we need to change this DB user to the user that we created last time. So that was ChatCat user with the password of my ChatCat. Okay, so this is our database URL. The other thing which you can store here if you want is the session secret. So remember, you need to have a secret key or salt. So just set it to a random value, a random number. So I'm just going to set it to something, just a random string. And the same thing for now, the same thing goes in production. So it's going to be exactly the same. We will have a few more things coming in to these two files. Now, depending on the environment, one of these files should be loaded and the settings should be provided. So the way we will handle that is we'll say module.exports inside the config.js. We'll say module.exports is equal to require, and let's form the file path based on the mode that we are running our app in. And as you know, you can get the value of the mode. You can get the exact string which describes which mode you are running in by querying the process.env.node_env. And if this does not exist, then we want to default to development. So once I have this value, all I need to do is I need to append, I need to concatenate it with a .json. Okay, so this will straight away load the file, load one of these files, the development.json or the production.json, depending on the mode in which the app is running in. And back in our app.js, we are loading this file. So once you have loaded this file, one of the things that you can do is you can just simply get rid of the secret value and replace it with the config dot session secret. So remember that we had created a key inside of our files called session secret, and this is being returned by the config.js and being stored inside a variable called config. So to access these values directly, what we'll simply do is use the variable, then a dot, and then that particular key which you want to use. All right, so by doing a config.session secret, we will get the value that we have created over here that is this value. Okay, so this is pretty easy. And then what we'll do is, as far as the production specific settings go, since we saw that sessions cannot be stored in the default memory store if you're going to run your app in production, it's not advised at all. What we're going to do is we're going to store our session values inside the MongoLab account, and to do that we require another module which is called as connect mongo. So create a variable called connect mongo and set it to require connect mongo, and this has to be invoked as a function. This will return a function, and you need to pass in a reference to the session variable. Now once the connect mongo module is loaded in, and remember you also have to download and install this module. So let's do an npm install connect-mongo and --save as always. So connect mongo allows you to use a MongoDB database, and it allows you to directly hook that up to store all your sessions in. Alright, so once the connect mongo is installed, what we're going to do is go into the production specific settings, and let's make a few changes to how the session middleware is invoked. So I'm going to create a new object here, and we're going to set the secret to config.session secret. Remember, this is what we had set in the production.json file, and you can change it anytime. And we will use the option called store and set it to a new instance of the connect mongo that we have just installed. And inside the connect mongo, we'll pass in our configuration, where the URL is the config.db URL. So this is the URL. This is this string that we had obtained from MongoLab, and this will allow the connect mongo to connect to the database and store the sessions there. Okay, so this is how we can pass in the URL, and finally we'll set an option called stringify set to true, so that all the session values are first converted to strings and then stored at MongoLab. Okay, so once you've done this, let's just try this out. So remember, we had created our routes, and the set color and the get color are still there. So let's use these to try them out. And I'm going to set the node_env to development first, and let's run the app. So right now the mode is development, and let's just go to MongoLab, and I already have a sessions collection over here which I was using earlier. So I'll just delete this just to show you whether now that we run the app, what happens. So let's go into the browser. We'll use get color, and it says not found, and I'll use set color, which will set the session variable. Now I'll go back to get color, and you can see that it does show up as red, but if I refresh the database on MongoLab, you'll see that there is no such thing as a sessions collection yet. Okay, so it's not there. That particular database is not there. That's because we are running our app in the dev mode. So now let's switch the mode. Let's shut down the app and use set node_env to production, and let's run the app now. So node app.js. Okay, so now the mode is production, as you can see, and let's just refresh this once again. So now when you refresh, you'll see that it takes a little while, because the first time that you run this, it has to connect to the MongoLab database. Now it says that favorite color not found, because obviously we have restarted the app, the sessions are not there. Let's use the set color option, and it said setting favorite color. And now when you try and go into get color, you'll see that the value is pretty much there. So if I go back to MongoLab and if I refresh this page, you should see a new collection here called sessions. So when I go into sessions, you'll see one record which has our fav color value set to red. So now you can see that all the sessions are being stored in the MongoLab database, and this is what you would want to do when you're deploying the app in production mode. So later on, when we finish this app and when we deploy it to Heroku, we will set Heroku to use the production mode and then use the right settings. So you should always have your configuration files and a configuration setup in your app so that you are able to easily switch from dev mode to production mode.